I think you've all heard the phrase, jack of all trades, master of none. But in more recent times, they've added, but oftentimes, better than a master of one. Hello, friends. Good eve. This is Woodworking is Bullshit, your favorite podcast about creativity, art, design, the mental side, the philosophical
Nailed it in
side.
one.
My tongue got twisted up in my mouth. The philosophical side of what we do and not how we do. I'm your host, Paul Jasper of Copperpick Woodworking, and I got my boy in the chair, Eric Curtis, fine furniture maker and content creator, and our guest tonight, special guest, Jeff Hein. I want to welcome you to the podcast. We are absolutely over the moon to have such an incredible painter such as you to help us get through today's topic. So I just want to start by saying thank you. Welcome to the podcast.
You say that to all the guests.
No, I don't. But now they all look bad compared to you. Jeff, thank you for being on the show.
Oh, man, I'm honored to be here. This is going to be fun. You guys are great.
It's going to be good.
Jeff is one of the finest portrait artists and painters I've ever seen in my life. He's also a teacher. He has his own atelier, the Hein Atelier, online and in person. Which is his
pause already.
Art school.
You guys used this word during the pre-call, and you just used it right there twice. What the hell is that? I'm going to need a definition.
It's really simple.
Atelier?
It means studio in French. So it's just a pretentious way of saying studio.
Ooh, I love being pretentious, though. That is one of my favorite things to do on the internet.
Yeah, it actually used to be named the Academy, but just for search reasons, like on Google. Everyone's calling them Atelier, so I switched
Really?
it. Yeah.
The Hein Atelier.
Hein Atelier.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, and as a testament to your skill as a portrait painter, when I first logged onto the call, for a strong 15 to 20 seconds, I thought that painting behind you was a lady just like standing there going to join us on the
really?
pod.
This one here?
Yeah.
No joke. Yeah, she's my friend. I can't even get my hand right. Trying to pat her.
Careful, Jeff.
Yeah, let's keep it clean.
Okay, so for those of you who don't have the video feed, just join our Patreon and you can see Jeff awkwardly patting some of his paintings in the background. All right. Jeff, you also said before the call that in many ways you think of yourself as a maker as opposed to an artist. And I think that feeds into today's topic, which is about how we pigeonhole ourselves into, say, being one thing. You say, oh, yeah. I'm a this or I'm a that. But see, even your own description of yourself, I think, gives away the topic in essence, because you think of yourself more broadly as a maker. Yeah.
100%.
And painting is just one of those multitudes of things you enjoy.
Yeah. You know, as a kid, I didn't even draw much. I mean, I would draw like on the back of my, you remember the old paper bag book covers we used to do?
Oh,
do they still do that?
Yeah.
Kids still do that?
Do kids have books anymore?
That's true. They're paperback Kindle covers. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we were poor children who had to take the grocery bags and
I did that.
Our books.
Exactly.
Yeah, we all did.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would draw on that in school. But then when I got home, I'd spend more time, if I wasn't playing sports or just doing kid stuff, I'd be in my dad's shop, you know, playing with his tools and making things. And, you know, I went on a camping trip with my dad once, and I didn't want to, when we were there, I knew I was going to have to catch my own dinner. That was one of the requirements of the camping trip. It was called a father and son camp out. And it was associated with my church. And my dad's like, when we get there, you guys got to catch your own food before you play. And I'm like, oh man. So I had a few weeks to prepare. So I think I was like 10 or 12. I made an electric fishing pole. And it was a little electronic device that attached to the handle of the fishing pole. And when a fish was caught, the buzzer went off. and it told you that, you know, I had a fish. So I just I cast it out. And my dad's like, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to play, Dad." I tied it to a tree, and then I went and played. Like 30 minutes later, all of a sudden I hear my buzzer go off, reel in my fish, cook it up, and have dinner.
Jeff, you're a genius.
How have you not patented that and made millions?
Oh, dude. But that's the kind, and I burglar alarmed my room when I was a kid. My mom kept on getting in my drawers, trying to rearrange stuff. So I put a burglar alarm, homemade burglar alarm over the door. Every single drawer, when she opened it, something would go off or it booby trapped it,
Jeff, you're a genius.
Sounds like you were living the actual Home Alone life.
A little bit, but just a little more techie.
Whatever his name
Yeah, a
was.
little more techie.
Jeff, you're a genius.
I loved that stuff. Well, you haven't seen it. It was pretty rudimentary, but for a 10-year-old, it wasn't so bad.
So how did you get from, first of all, you said you would go into your dad's shop and make things in the evenings and on weekends. What types of things was it all like invention style things? Were you just like tinkering? Were you making furniture? Were you making things to play with? Like, what kind of things were you making when you were younger?
That's why I say I think of myself as a maker, because I can't say I'm a furniture maker. I can't say I'm an inventor. I can't say I'm into electronics or whatever. I'm into all that stuff. So it was never one thing. I mean, there were times where I spent like a month just using the bandsaw and cutting out letters and like, oh, my dad got a new bandsaw. And then I've made jewelry boxes for girlfriends and furniture for girlfriends. And
nice move, bro.
That's
going to get the job done.
Smooth.
They still broke up with me, but I did get married eventually. And although she doesn't like anything I make, that goes. It's kind of never thought about that way. There's a pattern there. Anyway, so, and then, little inventions. Just if I had a problem, I'd just go to sleep thinking about it and get up the next day and try.
Do you find that you still have that same mentality, even though you're known as a painter now?
Oh, 100%. I'm the most distracted painter on the planet. I mean, before we got on the call, I was TIG welding, and I wasn't painting. I was TIG welding.
Okay.
And so,
Jeff, how many maker lanes are you in, would you say?
You mean as far as like the types of activities I'm doing?
Yeah, like can you tell us, like, I know you do woodworking.
I do woodworking, I do metalworking, I do leatherworking, I do electronics. What else?
Painting.
I don't know. I built out my van. I did all kinds of fiberglass. I did I had a handyman business, so I know how to do everything to build a house, plumbing, electrical, whatever. I'm willing to do anything. And if I have a problem, I'll just figure it out. Oh,
you must enjoy the challenge and the joy of discovery and curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love learning new skills.
Jeff, it sounds like you and I are very similar in
That's what he said. That's what Paul said.
Yeah, this desire to just like learn new shit, just find things out. And like, if you don't know how to do it, the fun part of it is like, well, I'll just take it apart, find out how it works, and then try to like reconstruct that on my own.
Exactly.
But you've become known as a painter, right? Like that's your primary business. Mm-hmm. So how did you get from kid inventing fishing poles with buzzers on it and electrical currents to one of the finest portrait painters this side of the Mississippi? What's that trajectory like?
Yeah, that's a really interesting story because, like I said, as a kid, I didn't draw that much. In fact, when I went to college, I told my parents I wanted to become an artist. I didn't know what that meant. I thought maybe I'd be an illustrator or something. And my mom's like, "You don't even draw." But she knew I was talented because she'd seen me draw. But what she meant was I don't draw consistently. She never sees me doing it. She saw it like a year ago, and that was it. And it was like for 5 minutes and was impressed. And then I never did it again. It was that kind of thing. And she's like, "You want to go to school for this?" Not to mention my parents were very scared because, the stereotype starving artist. And they're like, "What are you thinking?" And this was back in the early 90s. 92 is when I went to college. And, but what happened, I guess what happened was all the other things were undefinable. I was so interested in so many things, but there was only one thing that I could see that really set me apart. And maybe that's out of ignorance, and maybe I didn't see a career path for all my other interests. But I think more than anything, all those other interests were sort of vague, and they didn't really point in a clear direction. But I saw other students in high school and junior high and stuff doing art, and I was like, I could see that I had a clear aptitude for it compared to my peers. And so I was like, dang, maybe I could do this. I could be an artist. So it was really chasing aptitude more than
that's a smart
more than
move.
a passion.
That's what I was going to say. So it doesn't sound like you fell in love with it so much as you realized that you were really naturally talented at it.
Right.
And then you went, I can make this into a career.
It was not love. I was not at all. I mean, I would not choose to draw or paint full time to this day.
I was going to say, do you love it now?
It's not that, yes, I do, but I love all of it. That's the thing. It's just one more medium. And I could have been anything that related. I would love to be an engineer, for example. I could totally see myself as an engineer. I could totally see myself as a builder of some sort, like a contractor. I could see myself as any of the things that I mentioned, furniture maker, whatever. But painting, let me tell you this before you answer that question. So to answer the question in short, what happened was I went to college, I started studying art. Then I started a handyman business to put myself through school because I knew I also had those skills. So I started a handyman business. It did really well. And then I started making furniture for people because a client would have me finish their basement and then they would say, you know anyone that does cabinets? And I'd be like, I can do cabinets. I'd never done cabinets before. So I
but they don't have to know that before they give you a deposit.
Exactly. So they gave me a deposit for $3,000. I went out and bought some tools at Home Depot. I rented a storage unit. I used a bucket for a bathroom. And I made wall-to-wall cabinets for them in a storage unit. And then they got mad at me because I was 3 weeks late. And they said to me, you didn't have to make fine furniture. We wanted it 3 weeks ago. Ugh. I was like, so you're saying it's too good? They're like, yeah, we just wanted cabinets and you dovetailed everything and you did. They're like, I'm like, wow, I've never had a insult like that one before.
Yeah. That's a weird neg.
Yeah, but I started after that job, I kept making furniture. I'm like, I can do this furniture thing. So I started making commissioned furniture for people. And then I just realized I couldn't. I'm like, I toyed around with the idea of becoming a furniture maker, but then I sold my first painting and I was like, I can make so much better of a living painting. Wow. So the things were going side by side where I was doing other things and I was doing painting.
Okay.
And it became very clear at one point that painting was more lucrative. And
pause right there for a second, because that's a really interesting point. Do you think that you were, so how old are you at this point? In your 20s?
When I was in that storage unit, I was probably 23, 20.
Okay. Yeah. So like you're right at the beginning of that career. You're trying to, you want to make shit for a living, but you don't know what shit is going to be the most lucrative. You find that you can sell a painting for a lot more than you can sell cabinets for. Do you think that's because of your natural aptitude toward painting, or do you think that there is a different market for fine art versus woodworking / cabinetry?
Well, I think the fact that I have an aptitude for it certainly is a requirement, right? But the other is also true. I mean, I found that unless I'm somebody like Wendell Castle, you guys familiar with him?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, who is literally seen as an artist of furniture makers. He's not seen as a furniture maker. He's seen as like a sculptor that makes functional sculptures.
And you just happen to work in wood. That's all.
Exactly. That's kind of where, I was always planning on becoming a painter, but then I started thinking maybe furniture because I love that too. But I just couldn't see a path to Wendell Castle status, right? But paintings, it just is already there. But here's the thing. I love painting too. I love it all. So it's not like I had to compromise. It was an easy decision. It's like if two things you love, one pays, one doesn't.
Oh, totally.
Duh, right?
No, I did the same thing. I loved music and I loved science. And my dad's like, well, do you enjoy eating on a regular schedule? And I was like, yes. And so he's like, do science. And I was like, okay, because it pays way better than music.
Yeah. I did the same thing. I fell in love with woodworking and then didn't actually have a second choice. So I stuck with woodworking.
All right. So Jeff, when we're this podcast, our podcast is topical, and we think in many ways the topics are even more important than any one of us and our stories, because the topics speak to the entire audience, everyone in the field. So when we were talking, you and I, kind of coming up with today's topic, why did you suggest the idea about like art? Like, why do we pigeonhole ourselves versus like this whole idea of Renaissance? What made you feel like that is such an important topic for us to talk about?
Because I live in this mode of confusion. I've been there for 25 years because I don't understand it. I don't understand how a creative person, and it's no judgment.
Yeah.
I just can't relate. I don't understand how a creative person can get so obsessed with one thing and let everything else go, or maybe letting everything else go is the wrong phrase. But to me, creativity is all encompassing. My house has to be beautiful. My studio has to be beautiful. Everything I make has to be beautiful. Everything I do, like, it's in your soul. And I've heard my entire career people say, God, man, if I wasn't painting, I don't know what I would do. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't understand. There's so many other great ways to express yourself with your hands. I just don't get it. So I thought it was an interesting topic because I frankly, I just don't understand it. And and it's something that, I've often been puzzled by, like, for example, I do sort of understand it with a certain type of artist. I'm going to be a little judgmental, but you take like,
please do. This is a safe space. Nobody else is listening.
Yeah. I'm early in the podcast development. So, you take an artist like Lucian Freud, right? And you look at his studio, or Jackson Pollock, and it's a disaster. Their whole life looks like chaos. Now I get that because they're modern artists, and there's not a whole lot of talent in that anyway. So that's the part I'm going to get burned on. That's just my opinion. So
we both smiled because we agree with you. But,
yeah. So basically, to me, certain type of, I like some abstract art. Don't get me wrong. There are some that are very talented, but a lot of modern art is a scam. A lot of modern art is just some moron got chosen by the elite as a means of, laundering money.
Well,
right?
Isn't that what a lot of people say about Jackson Pollock? Like, it was just like America trying to be like, we have art too.
Yeah. And so their lives are chaos. They don't do anything else with their lives, granted. But when you're a classical painter, man, that is the hardest thing I've ever done. And it's still to this day the hardest thing I do. And
why is that the hardest thing you do?
Oh my gosh. It's like my wife said to me, I've often told this joke, so if I probably said in other podcasts, but I just find it so funny. One time I came home from work and I was exhausted. I was making a 10, 12-hour day of painting. And I told my wife I was exhausted. She'd been home all day with the kids, and we have 3 kids. And I was like, man, I'm so tired. And she goes, well, she holds her hand up and just makes a painting gesture with her wrist and just moves her hand a little like this and goes, oh, what's the matter? Is your wrist sore, Jeff? Is your wrist sore? I was like, yes. Oh man,
she gonna keep you honest, huh?
Yeah, but what? She's kidding. She is kidding, but I don't think she actually understands and I'm not saying this to tout my perceived personal intelligence. I'm not suggesting that at all. But for me personally, it takes a lot of my brain power. It pushes me to the limits.
Can you, because we're woodworkers. There's all kinds of artists that listen to this podcast, but primarily makers and woodworkers.
Right.
Can you give us a minute of what's going on in your brain as you're painting? Just put us in your head for just a second so we understand the types of decisions you're making on in every moment.
I don't want to it's hard to explain, but I'll do the best I can. And I'm probably going to trip over my words, and I'm probably going to regret saying something, because not because I'm going to offend anybody, but because I'll think about it later and be like, oh, that's not a perfect way of putting it, but I'll do my best.
Life's imperfect.
So let's say woodworking. So obviously I've got some experience with woodworking, not as much as you two, but I've got some experience with it. And, I think about, cutting a perfect dovetail by hand, right? Mm. It's part of the whole furniture process if you're doing it that way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But and it's a difficult thing, mostly muscle memory, right? So you've got to put in the hours to get that muscle memory. But once you have the muscle memory, you've got it, and it's there and you can depend on it. There's no equivalent in painting, right? There's no, not that I can think of. There's no equivalent. Yes, you get better with your brushes and you can make a more fluid stroke, but it doesn't translate the same way. Like even an uncoordinated person can do a good painting because it's all of a mental exercise. The other thing I'll say is that when you're cutting a dovetail, the design's already done, right? You're like, so the process is very much compartmentalized compared to painting, right? So when you do a painting like the ones behind me, yes, I do prepare the composition ahead of time, but those compositional decisions they don't just cap off and end and you're done. Now it's time to start cutting joints. Every brushstroke is part of the composition. So you've only got the overarching broad composition down. And then now as you're adding brush marks, every last stroke contributes to the composition. So
I see.
It's never done. So not only are you focused on composition, you're also focused on beautiful mark making, but you're also focused on creating form on a two-dimensional surface, which is really difficult to do. You're balancing creating form, you're balancing color, you're balancing temperature, you're balancing chroma, you're balancing.
What's chroma?
Chroma is like saturation, how intense a color is, right? You're trying to create depth using as many as 11 different devices in order to create depth. And trying to balance all of those with the composition, all real time, right? And it's just a lot to balance. It feels like the best way I can describe it is it feels like you're taking the ACTs. Like, so when I come home, I'm like, it's like a creative ACT. I get home at 10 hours. I'm like, and she's making fun of me about the wrist thing. And I'm just like, no, it's here. My head hurts.
Yeah, it's not the wrist.
My head hurts. I'm just like,
you're exhausted from being invested in the process for 10 hours.
Problem solving every single second. Like here's how I look at it too. Like there are times when you're doing many crafts where you can sort of depend on the muscle memory and think about other things while you're working.
Dovetails.
With painting, if you stop thinking and drawing, if you stop thinking for a minute about what you're doing, you'll go down the wrong path and you'll be fixing mistakes for a week. Like you cannot stop thinking.
That's why it takes me so long to build anything, if I'm honest.
I mean, there's some of this in every craft, right? But it's like every second I tell my students, don't stop thinking. What happens is they'll start drawing brainlessly, which is the only way I can put it, where they're just drawing out of memory or muscle memory. In other words, they're rendering the form of the face, right? And they just start rendering and they're having fun. They stop thinking about what they're doing and intensely thinking. Next thing you know, they've done it all wrong and the face is flat or it's too round or it's too something. And then they spend 2 hours cleaning up the mess. And the biggest, I often tell those students, the biggest difference between an amateur artist and a great artist is that a great artist is so disciplined that they never stop thinking. Like they know, right? And an amateur artist could do it if they had the discipline to just stay focused.
Do you think that is a natural aptitude that you have in part of the reason why painting was so easy for you? Or maybe
I
it's
wouldn't
not
say
easy,
it's easy,
but yeah. But like, but
compared
you
to
are
others,
more
maybe.
naturally adept at painting because your brain is wired in that way where you constantly look and assess and adjust in order to create the best thing. Or is that a thing that you had to learn?
I had to learn that. So the aptitude, I'm totally ADD. Many artists are. So you totally have to learn that. The aptitude comes in the understanding of the principles. So in all the years of teaching, I've had very few students that I've only had to tell them once and they understand what I'm saying. Most of the time I have to, it's not that they're complex. It's almost like juggling. You throw one ball, relatively easy, right? Yeah. Then I'm going to throw one more at you. Then I'm going to throw another one at you. Next thing you know, you're juggling 16 balls, right? And so it gets to a point where students they just don't know how to throw the third ball or the fourth ball. They just don't get it. And that more times I throw it at them, the more they drop it, and they just don't get it. And it could be any principle that it isn't sinking in, and they could spend months trying to figure it out. But every now and then I'll get a student. My son's one of these students, and where I just tell him one thing, and so far he's only been studying with me for about 6 months, but so far, my daughter, who's also studying me, is like, Dad's bragging about you. She's in the background. She's also one of those students, by the way. They got the genes. But he's been here about 6 or 8 months, and everything I tell him, he gets it the first time. I mean, there might be a wall there, but most people, I got to tell them over and over and over again, they just don't get it.
So that was your natural aptitude, was
That's
just like the natural ability to
Yeah.
understand the elements and principles of art. You just like had that innate in your bones.
I didn't know it, but once someone told me, I got it usually the first time. And so it was a relatively quick process to learn how to paint because they said it to me, and I'm just like, well, yeah, okay, I get that. And I did it, and I never stopped doing it.
So I wonder, Jeff, if that's why you've been moving your interest into so many different fields has come quite easily for you. You know, maybe that aptitude is what is behind your enjoyment of learning all these different fields. Because if it was a grind, you probably wouldn't enjoy it.
Probably not.
Right.
Well, that's not necessarily true. It's always sort of a grind, but it's the fulfillment of overcoming it. It's like winning a race. It hurts all the way.
Yes, but you're going in with the knowledge that if you buckle down, you will get it. You have that confidence.
I have that confidence.
Yeah, but not everyone has that confidence.
I was going to say, I feel like that confidence is kind of innate. Like even before you know that you have the skills to do it, you had the confidence to believe
Eric,
that you could figure out.
Eric, that's earned. That confidence is earned over a lifetime of trying things, and every time you try it, you seem to come up roses eventually.
I think,
and then you're like, well, I guess I can do these things.
True. That's probably true, but I can only speak for myself. But Jeff, I'm going to guess because I've already said I think you and I are similar in a lot of ways. When I was younger, that I would just roll up to a situation, whatever it is. Like I had to learn how to sweat some pipe. I had to learn how to rewire a house. I had to learn how to build a cabinet, whatever it was. And I'd be like, fuck it, I can figure it out. That confidence wasn't earned yet. Like I had no
I'm the same
experience
way.
in any of those things.
I disagree, Eric. It's not confidence from those areas. It's confidence from something else in your past that told you, I'm going to be able to do this.
I think it's just a hard-headedness of like,
I don't
fuck
know.
anybody who tells me I can't
figure
it out.
I don't know.
It could be. This is how I looked at it. Well, it's a mixed bag. I think you're both right. It's a mix for me personally, at least. It's a mixed bag because I remember thinking, as a kid, my mom would say, "If you really want to be an artist, why don't you ever enter any contests or take any art classes?" Because I never did. And I said, because I know that somebody out there is better than me, and what's the point, right? But then as time went on, I went to college and I could see then, oh crap, no, I guess I do have more skills than I thought I had. I guess the world is a little less intimidating. But so there is a little piece of it with painting in particular. But at the same time, I do remember even as a young kid, and it might just been because I saw my dad always be able to do everything. My dad was great with his hands. And I just assume that's just maybe I just assume that's how it is. But I do always remember thinking, if that man can do it or that woman can do it, why can't I? That's just a body. I'm a body. I have a brain. They have a brain. And it was just seemed like common sense to me. If it can be done by a human, why can't this human do it?
Yes. I've had that same confidence my whole life too, Jeff. I've sweat copper. I've done electrical. I sided my house. I built my porch. I did my bathroom. I did my kitchen. Like I've never come across something where I couldn't figure it out ever. And I rarely fail in catastrophic fashion. Like you have little failures along the way, but nothing catastrophic. So I think a lifetime of seeing that I can figure it out has given me the confidence that the next time I'm like, oh, sure, we can figure this out because when haven't you figured it out in your past? And I don't
It
mean
definitely
that
builds. It builds for sure.
builds, and I don't mean that in a braggy way, but just an honest way. Like if you try these things and you don't go down in a ball of flames, like you tend to feel more excited about learning the next thing, right? Because it builds on itself.
And I think anyone can do. I honestly think. I mean, I know we all have different aptitudes, so there are some people that are going to be slower at learning things, right? But you know, my wife and I are so different in this way. And raising kids was interesting because I have a you can attitude. And my
should we
wife,
get your kids? Because should your kids like should you call them over and see what they
confirm
think?
or deny?
I know, right? No, they've definitely got it. Oh my gosh, my daughter right now is literally she's literally sewing a dress that she made up. She makes up the patterns. She just taught herself. Well, I taught her how to sew a little bit, but she's gone far beyond what I taught her. And then now she just makes her own clothes, not with patterns. She has a dummy, and she's making a dress right now as we speak. I mean, they're insanely. They both believe they can do anything, and I don't know if that's genetic or the way they were raised. But one parent, me, always said, "You guys can do anything that you put your mind to," and another parent's like, "I can't do that. Can't. And like, I'd say, you can do this to my wife. And she'd say, no, I can't. And I'm like, yes, you can. No, I can't. No, I can't. We'd literally fight about it. I'm like, yes, you can. No, I can't. I'm like, fine, you can't, you know? But I think there's a certain type of personality that's like that. And speak of the devil, that was her. She probably heard me.
She's listening.
I'm so screwed.
You're done. Your daughter's going to tell her everything you said.
I know. Well, she doesn't listen to your podcast, and I'll make sure of it.
Not yet, but I'm going to find her. All right.
No. Anyway,
you know, from a general sense, you know, what we're talking, there's a term that people like to use to describe what we're talking about, which is you're a Renaissance man or a Renaissance woman. Like you're a Renaissance person. Yeah.
Right.
And we use that term to denote someone who has aptitudes across a wide variety of spectrums, whether it be science and art, working with your hands, social IQ, whatever, right? We describe it as a Renaissance person. So, you know, all day today, before today's episode, I was being like, okay, I mean, I get that it comes from the Renaissance. Like, I guess there were people, you know, who, espoused those traits in the Renaissance, but I took a really deep dive. And I mean, I was
just
cutting
today.
hours. I was cutting hours and hours of dovetails today, Jeff. I was right, like you said, because you can think
Right.
while you cut dovetails. Because I've done it so many hundreds of times, so like
Right.
my brain can absorb information. I watched video after lecture, like academic lectures on the Renaissance, trying to understand what does it mean. Why was the Renaissance like something special, right? And
what'd you learn?
Why did it happen? So what I learned was that, like during the Renaissance, what I've learned is that it was sort of like the perfect storm is what happened in the Renaissance. So the Renaissance is like 1400, the year 1400, 1500, 1600, right?
Right.
So we had just come out of the Dark Ages, the so-called Dark Ages, which is like Rome collapsed. There was this intervening period after the collapse of Rome and Greece of like feudal states fighting, war. Everything went from big, built up, beautiful cities, like the classics of Rome, right? All to these little feudal settlements, all fucked up and like warring factions and disease and famine. And that's why they call it the Dark Ages and the medieval Dark Ages. It was a mess. And out of the Dark Ages comes the Renaissance. Specifically, everyone seems to talk about Florence, Italy, is where it sort of first got traction. And what was happening is, well, famine had passed, the Black Plague is over, and everyone who's still alive is like, I guess we're going to live. This is pretty awesome. So I think we're safe, right? So first of all, you're not going to die, right? There's that.
Yeah.
Second of all, trade and Florence became a major banking center, and there was a lot of money happening then at the time. So not only are we not going to die, but there's money to be had. Okay. And the third thing is what became really cool is they had rediscovered the classics of Rome and Greece through like exploration. And they had, I guess, invented the first sort of printing press to be able to print materials and reproduce the books of the time. Go ahead, Eric. You had
No, I was just going to give Goody a big shout out in that spot,
is that who it was?
Gutenberg? Come on, bro. You can't just
sorry,
hit me
I
up
thought
with
you
a-
were saying Gouty. Like I was like, what are you talking about? Okay, now I
No,
got
Big
you.
Goody. Go for it.
Oh, no,
likes
I
Big
Johannes
didn't even know.
Gutenberg?
You
Come
like
on,
Big
bro.
Goody?
Big Goody fan. Big Goody fan.
So, all right. So you have like a lot of money. The Medici family is talked about a lot in Florence. So there's money, and everyone's like coming out of the Dark Ages. Everyone's feeling more optimistic.
Yeah.
And now we can reproduce materials like reading, and so they're interested in all the philosophical books of Greece and Rome, and a lot of them were philosophical about what it means to live a more rich life. And so in this perfect storm is born this idea of humanism, apparently. And humanism is like less of a focus on the divine. It's not anti-religion by any means, but a little less focus on the divine and the powers that be, and a little more self-centered focus on what it's like to be a human and to live a rich life as a human. Humans became more the object of paintings and literature, more than simply only religious powers. But it was like the human, you could see, was more being the center of things. And so with that came this cool factor, or I would almost say a fad, to be well read, to know poetry, to know some science, to know some painting. Like all the things we talk about being a Renaissance person, that became very in vogue with humanism because it was a focus on being a more complete human. And what did that mean? That meant being a complete, in some sense, a complete human meant being a generalist. Like I understand literature, and I'm well spoken, and I have a great vocabulary, and I've read this, and I am physically fit, and I can make things, and I can paint. And you think of Leonardo da Vinci, you think of Michelangelo, Raphael, all these people who really soaked in multitudes of disciplines. And what you saw is like these multitudes of disciplines that were sort of coming in at the time were cross-pollinating each other. So, for example, math and science was informing 2-point or 3-point perspective in paintings. Like the math was allowing them to represent art in different ways. And so in essence, that's what I learned today. It was a fascinating series of lectures on like what it meant to be a Renaissance person. And I think it happened, though, because everything was right at the time. The money was there, the people were there, like the classics had been rediscovered, people could read them because of the invention of the printing press, and like all this stuff occurred at the same time, right? And so that sounds super idealistic, super exciting, right? But now where are we today? Like we're like a long stone's throw from those conditions today. So like we idealize the idea of being a Renaissance person, let's say, but do the conditions of today support being a master of many as opposed to a specialist?
Oh, well, my first reaction to that question is there was less to know back then.
There was low-hanging fruit.
That's part
then.
of the thing, right? Like Da Vinci is always the person that's held up as like, oh my God, he was a master painter, sculptor, engineer, inventor, and like all of the things. He did everything. But the level of understanding of physical science and engineering at that point in time was, not to put him in his intellect down in any way. But
No, you're right.
Elementary compared to what we, like if he had to study quantum physics, he probably also wouldn't have time to paint.
Yes, but he had no foundation to he was learning these things de novo, which is incredible on its own.
Sure.
But
and again, I'm not saying he wasn't a genius.
You're basically saying there was some low hanging fruit, right?
Yes, there was a lot of things we talk about. He invented like a prototype of a helicopter is one of the things that he came up, and that's super cool, super intuitive, brilliant man. But like, how many other people invented a helicopter in that same time? But Da Vinci's is the only one we know because he's Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah,
I think there are probably a lot of people who are grabbing at that same low hanging fruit that just 500 years later we don't know about.
So,
Eric, you know what's interesting about that is I'm not going to say too much because I think this is going to be cool, and you guys are going to want it if it works. Okay. But I just, for woodworking, for my shop, I came up with an idea that hopefully is going to drastically improve the effectiveness of my dust collection system. Okay. And then I planned out this whole idea. I put it all together in CAD, and then I just tried to, or a CAD program, and just put all the pieces together. It's currently printing. And then I started researching it, and just to see if my theory was accurate. And it turns out that the theory, which just sort of seemed logical to me, actually has already been applied to other technologies. Not the one I'm using, but the actual science that I thought I came up with on my own has already been used in other technologies. I don't think in this one. But the point is, Da Vinci, when he came up with something, everything was new. Like it was...
Yeah.
If he were to come up with what I came up with yesterday or a couple days ago, it probably was new. If we do it, it's like
somebody's done it 100
somebody's
times
done it
already.
already, and there's
Sure.
and somebody's done something as like quantum physics. Somebody's done something so much more complicated than what I could invent. It's ridiculous.
So what you guys are really talking about is the low-hanging fruit has been picked, and the only way to pick fruit is to specialize to a high degree now, right? Being a generalist
Right.
and
Well,
picking
like the question that you had was like, how far removed are we from those conditions? And I think those conditions, like we're still living in the shadow of the Renaissance, right? Like that's the tradition that we all exist in, is the Renaissance. And I think there have been points closer to where we stand now that have been those same types of conditions for people. Like I think of inventors in the early 20th century. So you're just coming into this era of viable mass production, and you have all of these people who are like late 1800s, early 1900s, whose job is quote unquote inventor. And it's just kind of crazy dude who like dabbles in a bunch of different shit and just like comes up with things that people might be able to use in a condition where now it can be mass produced to sell to huge quantities of people in the hopes that they make it rich. That's not a far leap from like the Renaissance man coming up with new gadgets or like learning all of these different disciplines and applying it to his painting.
I have one thought that maybe contradicts this idea. To Da Vinci, this stuff maybe was quantum physics, right? I mean, because if we, I came up with an idea a couple days ago, and I think it was my idea, but I'm in the 21st century, and I've seen lots of products around, and I've experienced all kinds of modern technology, and all of that, whether I know it or not, has informed my creativity, right? Mm-hmm. He's living just beyond the Dark Ages, and so to him, to invent a helicopter is kind of like me just inventing quantum physics in a way, maybe. I don't know. So, because it's all relative, right? He didn't have anything to base his ideas on, anything. No life experience. We're buried in it. So, like, I can't really pat myself too much on the back for coming up with something that's already been done that I think is pretty cool, because I grew up surrounded by great technologies. That's
an interesting point, and I don't necessarily disagree, but even just thinking of the helicopter as the example in my head.
I don't necessarily
disagree. It's a fair point.
What a fucking tepid agreement
No. It's not, because I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you in principle.
Jeff, I agree with you wholeheartly.
But
I'm not even sure if I agree with you.
But
I'm just throwing that out there.
Thinking about his helicopter, right? What he had was a wicker basket and an Archimedes screw on top. Like, that was his helicopter design. So he didn't invent a new thing. He just took the Archimedes screw, which already existed for like 1500 years or something.
Oh, that's a good point.
And then just put it on
so he did the same thing.
And he just went, that can probably push air.
Eric, you know a lot about this fucking helicopter, dude.
I know a lot of bullshit about a lot of things, Paul. You know?
Da Vinci's the man.
I know a lot about a couple of things. Take your pick. Those are the options.
Where'd you get Archimedes screw? What kind of bullshit?
You don't know about the Archimedes screw? Come on,
where did you pull that from?
That's Archimedes was an ancient Greek
mathematician. Is that a verb or a noun?
The Archimedes screw is in the Kama Sutra.
It's a noun. Okay.
It's a verb.
It's a verb.
Okay,
I'm just saying that everybody's influenced by what comes before them.
Right.
And so that's why I don't disagree with what you're saying. But I think we kind of, when you have these historical figures, we assume that they invented things out of thin air when we just
maybe they
acknowledge
didn't.
that, like,
I don't know.
They rediscovered Greco-Roman engineering. And I guarantee you that he had read about Archimedes' screw at some point. He didn't invent the Archimedes screw.
Okay, but on that point, I'm actually just playing devil's advocate because I don't know what I think about this. But I honestly think that I could probably build a helicopter that flew. Maybe I'm delusional. But I think given enough time, I think I could figure it out. But I've seen them. Like, you know what I mean? So that's the big difference, right?
Yeah.
So I've often wondered, because Da Vinci is my idol, man.
Why, Jeff? Why?
Because he's the symbol of the Renaissance. Like he is the ultimate He may not be the ultimate Renaissance man. I mean, Bernini was something else too, but I mean, he was like, yeah, he's something else. Like, if you could smash those two together, it'd be the perfect human. Because Bernini was more of an aesthetic genius. We're building like great buildings and great furniture and great sculpture and great everything, you know, whereas as far as art is concerned, Da Vinci was just a painter and not just a painter, but that was the only art he did that I'm aware of. And he didn't do it that much, you know.
Can you give us the painter's inside view of how painters in the field of painting see Renaissance painting and Renaissance art? What's the temperature?
It's not that good.
Oh, really?
No. But that's because it kind of goes to what we're talking about. What did they have to look at, right? The 19th century was hands down the best century, and that was obviously 500 years later. So, hands down.
In terms of painting?
In terms of painting, in my opinion.
When you say it's not that good in what way?
They just hadn't advanced that much. It was great for the time. It was a huge advancement from the 14th to the 15th, and then from the 15th to the 16th. But then, if you look at most living artists today, can paint circles around any of those painters.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Dude, I went to the Louvre and I was bored out of my mind.
Really?
Oh my gosh!
Explain why, Jeff. We don't know any of this as woodworkers.
Ran through the Louvre. I ran through it. I went to
with the jewels in hand, or
Eric, you bad boy.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the Musée. I never can pronounce that right. Musée d'Orsay.
Yeah,
which is 19th century art mostly.
Yeah.
And God, that was amazing. But then I go to the Louvre and I ran through it. I was
Jeff,
like,
explain. I don't understand why, because to me, I don't see it as any different. Can you explain what you're seeing as opposed to what a woodworker is seeing?
God, this is why is it boring? Well, first of all, part of it is the technology they had.
What do you mean by
technology? The 19th century utilized photography. That was a huge jump in painting. Huge.
Okay.
In the Renaissance, if you see a baby, it looked like an old man with short legs and arms. Right?
It's one of my favorite things about Renaissance paintings.
Yeah, it's so weird.
I'm blanking on the word right now, but it's one of my favorite words too.
Really?
There's a specific word for it. Is it the homunculus?
I have no idea.
I got to Google it real quick. The homunculus is
Jeff,
that phenomenon where, Latin for little man. It means
they didn't know
the babies that look like old people.
Right.
That's
they
incredible.
didn't know how to. They couldn't capture moving subjects, right? Because they didn't have a camera. There were some that did a decent job once you get up to Velázquez, but that's what is that? Velázquez would be the 17th century. He was able to capture people in motion really well. But again, that was centuries later, and painting had advanced. But a couple things, just to keep it simple, a couple things were they were limited on paint color. Their paintings were very brown, kind of, and in that sense, kind of blah. They didn't have the richness of color that you get later. I mean, they did have some rich reds and blues, but not the diversity in color that we get later.
Were they brown then, or have they aged and mellowed over time?
Well, I mean, they've cleaned a lot of these paintings too. So a lot of them the varnishes have been stripped. So I'm sure there's some of that, but
Okay.
also, I mean, we've got so many more colors today, and even in the 19th century, we have so many more colors.
Okay, so
but most of it was technique. Most of it was technique. It just got better and better and better. They in the Renaissance, every face looked like sort of a symbol of a face. It wasn't. There's a term in painting called naturalism that came about in the 19th century where everything it was like it could walk right off the canvas.
Wow.
It didn't look like that in the Renaissance. Every character looked sort of like an icon of a person. They didn't feel natural, hence naturalism, right? There was no naturalism then. It was representational painting, realism, whatever you want to call it, but not until later, I would say at the earliest, in my opinion, like the 17th century, did it start to look real, And, and to me, that's what I love about, more, not modern painting, but, later painting.
I see.
It's just, it gets so naturalistic.
All right. A question that I think a lot of the listeners could relate to. All right.
Yeah.
Give me your opinion of the Mona Lisa.
I was just there, and this is how much I cared about it. I didn't even get online. And I was just like, whatever. It's too long of a line. It's not worth it. The thing about the Mona Lisa is Da Vinci was not that great of a painter. I'm going to get slaughtered if any artists listen to this.
You're right. Carry on.
I love this. I love every minute of this.
But he was a great painter for his time. He didn't have all the advantages I have. He didn't have all the painters between the 1500s to now to learn from, right? He literally invented painting techniques that had never been used before. And Mona Lisa's one of those paintings that he applied some of these techniques to. So it's not a fair comparison, but apples to apples, if you put him next to a Waterhouse painting from the 19th century, it's no comparison. I mean, Waterhouse would wipe the floor with him. But if you put Waterhouse in his century, it'd be I don't know that Waterhouse could hang with him then, because Waterhouse had all kinds of advantages and hundreds of years of experience.
Oh my God.
To lean on,
Jeff, I wanted to ask this question of someone deep in the field for my entire life. I've always wanted to know how you guys all saw these paintings.
Yeah. And again, keep in mind, they're amazing for what they are, right? You have to put them in context. For the 14th and 15th centuries, they're amazing.
How do you feel
for
about
the 20th century, if I saw one painted today, I'd be like, not impressed.
How do you feel about the Impressionists?
It's a mixed bag for me personally.
Van Gogh, Monet, for the listeners who don't know what I mean.
There are some Monet paintings I like. I'm not a huge Impressionist fan, but but that's just a matter of taste, I think. Okay. I'm not a huge fan. They sort of, I guess what I don't like about when I see an Impressionist painting I like, it's one that still has some level of academic understanding, and it hasn't completely gone into the expressing your feelings and color and everything. I like some brains behind the emotions. You know what I mean?
No, I do. Yeah. So coming back to our question of we thought about the Renaissance and we think about where we are today. I had a phone call before we went on today with Jack Thomas, one of our rotating chairs that we use all the time, who is on the podcast all the time. And Jack was an art professor as part of her history. And she's like, oh boy, she said, I have a bee in my bonnet about this topic of specialism.
Take a shot, everybody.
Specialist versus generalist and Renaissance, that. And one of the things she said, what I think was really interesting, and Jack, thank you again for having that phone call with me. You stirred up a lot of ideas, is today, we value this idea of someone being a Renaissance person, right? That's a compliment. Yeah. But our society and the way we engineer school does not create the conditions for it today. In fact, we set up society towards specialization.
It's crazy.
you might get a little bit of like try this, try that in high school, right? You take electives, maybe that's a little try this, try that. But once you sort of get into college, specialization is it. You will specialize. And that's that. Like it's as if society and capitalism, it's all set up for the specialization, which goes totally against the idea of like being broadly knowledgeable in a whole host of disciplines. What's your reaction to that?
Well, actually, it brings up a thought I had a little while ago that I didn't get to comment about, and that is that I think what was it you had asked me? And that would probably be important. I can't remember, but I think that in this day and age, we have advantages, and we can be more of a Renaissance man or woman today than ever before. But also we have disadvantages that make it possible for us to be less of a Renaissance person. And what I mean by that is, like, when you go home at night, you have two, and I'll get to the school thing in a minute, but it's related, I think. When you go home at night, you have a couple options. Last night, I spent the whole evening watching Eric build a crate. Yeah, it was nice. And build a crate and cut dovetails with that dreaded machine that he was using. But
it's because he's a fucking puss.
I got shit to do.
He pussed out everyone.
No, you know what it is? No. I can cut dovetails by hand, so I don't fucking have to.
Okay, pigeon whisperer.
He can, man. He's the man. That's why I follow you, which is so cool, by the way, to be talking to you right now. I've totally been following you forever. But and Paul, but he already knows that. But so I spent last night watching him, and I could have been just going through Reels or Instagram and wasting my time. But to me, it's like we have so much information, and you can make a choice. You can exploit all that information in order to become better at more things and more of a whole person, or you can literally waste your brain away day after day on just going through Reels and shorts and watching kittens, jump out of windows or shoot bazookas or something, Like, you have a choice. And I think a huge portion of our country and our world chooses the latter, right? And I do too sometimes and feel guilty about it. But I think we live in a time where we really can be really well-rounded. And in fact, so this is where I get to the school point. My kids aren't even going to college. Like, I don't want them to go to college for that reason. And they are becoming very well-rounded people, and they'll figure it out. They'll figure out how to make money. And I'm not too concerned about it, because they're going to be huge assets in our community, because they're going to have so many skills. And I think more and more people are starting to notice that, especially because everything they teach you at school is on the internet. It's like, at this point, it's pointless, unless you need a certain degree to get a certain job, right? It's like everything is out there, and we have a choice. Do we want to take all that information and become a more whole person, or do we want to flip through Reels and shorts every evening and eat ice cream? Like, what are we going to do?
There's so much in there. I agree with everything you just said, but like, there's so much in there to digest about, like, to make a decision about who we are as individuals and how we want to spend our time on the planet. Yeah. Because as you were talking about everything that we have access to and how we want to spend our time, and I don't understand why everybody isn't taking advantage of all of this information and resources that we have available to us. How many artists do you think, Jeff, are considered Renaissance artists, Renaissance people? There's just a few hundred, a few thousand. Like, how many? I mean,
the only one that I know that I personally really think is a whole Renaissance artist is Sean Cheatham.
Okay.
And I'm sure there are others, but the only one that I know for sure is like the kind of guy, the kind of artist that everything he touches, he does well. Everything he does well.
So that's 1 out of 8.5 billion people on the planet.
Currently. Well, out of artists, what is
person?
Great. Let's say that quote unquote master artists. Let's say there are 5,000 of them on the planet.
Okay, so that
1 out of 5,000.
That means 99.8% of the human population is just like chilling at the end of the day. They're just fucking tired
No,
when
I
they
may
get
just
home
not
from
know.
work.
There may be others. I just don't know about it. But I mean, yeah, he's one.
I think that it takes. I agree with you. Sean is an incredible artist, and just a really like we had him on recently, and just an incredible, interesting person to converse with for a while. But I think that's kind of rare. Like the way that his brain works, I think is kind of
That's
rare.
what I'm saying. I think he's one of the only. He's the only one I know of.
Well, and I don't know how much of that is by choice from people, or just like they only have the capacity to like you were saying earlier, like by the time you get home after 10 hours of painting, you're mentally, spiritually, emotionally exhausted. And you need to take some time to recoup. And your recuperation process may look like, I'm going to dive into YouTube, learn some shit, go jump in the garage and wire up some outlets. Some other people might just be like, I'm going to go like sit on the back porch with a cocktail and hang out with my wife or my husband for a few hours.
What? You know? Why would anyone do that?
Why would somebody do that?
Jeff.
But it's just a different wiring of the brain, you know?
No, I think you're right, especially when you think of when we talk about someone like Sean. Sean he's literally a genius. So we don't all have the choice to be Sean Cheatham. I mean, because he doesn't have to learn this stuff. He just does it well.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, he made a chessboard a while back for some actress who I can't remember her name, but you would know her. She's famous. And I'm like, you freaking kidding me? I'm like, you've never made a chessboard before. He's like, yeah, but I told her I could do it. And now I did it. And it was so beautiful. All the chess pieces were so gorgeous. Like every chess piece was like a sculpture I think he made it out of African blackwood or something and some other.
Son of a bitch. Jesus
and have you seen it? You're shaking your head. You've seen it?
Yeah. I talk to Sean every day in it lately because we're working on a thing together. Yep.
He nailed it the first time. And, there's not a lot of people like that. So granted, there is certain level of genius in a Renaissance man like Sean. But I think that everyone can have a taste of it. Like it doesn't, not everyone's going to have the aptitude that Sean has and everything he touches turns to gold. I think that's very rare.
And again, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not defending people scrolling on their phones for 4 hours every night and wasting their fucking evenings and not doing anything productive with their time.
Well, that's a judgment, to be fair, right?
Oh, I'll judge the shit out of that.
That's a value judgment.
I don't give a fuck. I will judge that all day long.
Yeah.
But the other point about like how our schooling system is set up, I think definitely in part is due to what we were talking about earlier, which is just like shit has got more advanced over the centuries. And so you need more time to learn the things that will pay the bills. That's one thing. But also and I just Googled this, during Da Vinci's lifetime, around about 1500, can you take a guess as to what the rough world population was?
3 million.
Jesus Christ, that's like the size of Italy.
I have no idea.
Paul, any guesses?
I'm gonna say, wait, it's I could exponentially walk it back to 8 billion.
3 million.
I never did well at the jelly beans in the jar guess either. I'm like,
jelly beans in the jar.
I'm like, there's 6 of them. It's a 5-gallon bucket, you moron. Like, I don't know.
All right, I don't know, Eric. What, 100 million to 300 million?
Roughly somewhere between 450 and 550 million.
Okay.
So compared to the 8 billion people that are on the planet, there were 7 people in the year
3 jelly beans.
That's too funny.
But here's my point. Like, if you extrapolate that, I don't know what's the. Can you extrapolate downward? Or is extrapolate only to make bigger?
No, you
I don't even know what
both directions.
Okay, all right.
Do whatever you want with it.
So if you extrapolate that down to the size of like the cities in the countries that we're talking about during the Renaissance, largely northern Italy, these are towns of like a few thousand people.
Yeah.
And so you would presumably need people to do multiple things in order to achieve anything in this town, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to be exclusively a school teacher. They're going to be a school teacher and a farmer and like a volunteer engineer, a ditch digger for their church when they're laying a foundation and like carry stones over for the masons. They're going to do a bunch of shit just because there's less people to do things and they need everybody to pitch in a little bit more.
Yeah, but okay, we're talking about two different things though, maybe here. Granted, if you're a brain surgeon, right, or you're a rocket scientist, you're going to have limited time to become good at everything, at many other things, right? Because those things are such hard, difficult sciences, and to be relevant in your field. But I'm mostly thinking about creative people, right? So the arts and crafts, right? That's the thing that puzzles me more than anything. Is it's just I just find it all so interesting, and it's hard to imagine just being focused on one.
Well, Jeff, then someone says to you, well, society rewards specialization in the arts. Like, you have to make a name for yourself. You have to go to school, make enough paintings or whatever you choose to do to get known. You have to become a known entity and get cred in your field. You have to earn the respect and the cred of the field, of the public. You have to get known for the thing, right? That takes a long period of time. So people would say, well, Jeff, I mean, it's not that I didn't want to do those things. It's that to earn that cred and to build that customer base took me 40 years. That's why.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably why.
No, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not, but I think that's what a lot of people would say.
I think you nailed it.
I think that's what a lot of people would say.
No, it is probably what a lot of people would say.
And by the way, I think and this is a point Jack brought up, she goes, if you do 20 different things early on in your career, let's say when you're going to school, they think you're unfocused. You are not committed.
So dumb.
You're dilly-dallying. You're not serious. You're dilly-dallying, right? You need to buckle down and focus. It's actually frowned upon, but she draws the distinction that once you make it in a field, let's say you, Jeff, like you've made it as a painter, right? You're there. People will pay handsomely for your work. You're well regarded. You have a school. Now you've made it. Well, when you try other things, it's not Jeff's unfocused. It's not Jeff's dilly-dallying and wasting his time. Jeff is choosing to explore other mediums. Oh, I see. So if you do this as a student, you're unfocused and you're like fucking around with your life and you're not sure. But once you get that cred and earn that badge, right? Now it's seen very differently. Oh, Jeff's exploring his next medium. So I think, that was a really interesting point. I was like, wow.
That rings really true. When I was in school, I was always the last student done with a test. Always. And my teachers were always so frustrated with me because I would literally turn stuff in blank because I'd just be daydreaming the whole time. And there was one point, you guys are from back east, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember the Iowa tests?
Yes, I do.
The Iowa tests. They were like placement tests in elementary school. You're probably too young, Eric, but so I was in the third grade and I would just turn everything in empty, blank, even tests. I couldn't care less, and of course I was always the last one to turn it in because I wasn't even doing it. And then at the end of the year, my mother came to my teacher and said, hey, or my teacher came to my mother and said, hey, he's going to fail. I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to have to hold him back. My mom's devastated. She's like, we can't hold him back. That'll ruin his life. He'll always have that stigma. So she said, well, if he does okay on the Iowa tests, we'll push him forward. So my mom, of course, she tried to prepare me the best she could. I don't remember what we did, and then we took the Iowa tests, and I remember someone snapping their fingers and trying to keep me focused the whole time. And then, excuse me, I got a call for and then I ended up grading at like 6th grade level, but I had to have someone like sitting there on Jeff, focus, focus. But then once I was, 3 years ahead, they're like, okay, we can't hold it back. Right. But the only way I could show what I knew was if someone was like, Jeff, pay attention, Jeff, pay attention, Jeff, pay attention. And that's the way my whole life has been. Like, it's just, I am always looking what's next to me. Like, what is that? Ooh, that's interesting. It's like, I'm like a raccoon just obsessed with all the shiny objects everywhere. And
Eric,
can relate.
Like that? Eric, relate. I swear that's Eric. That's Eric.
Can relate hard, buddy.
Yeah, and it served me well because I sort of, it was sort of an accident, I suppose, because it just sort of put me in the place where I'm at today, because somehow I landed on my feet, even though I was never a good student for that reason. I remember I was taking the ACTs, and I got through the science and math, which I'm interested in, very interested in science and math. So I got through that, no problem. Then I had to do the reading comprehension. I read the first paragraph of the first thing, and it was a bunch of stuff I couldn't care less about. So I saw someone kicking a ball around outside. And next thing you know, an hour and a half went by, and I'd been staring at that dude kicking a ball around for an hour and a half. And the alarm goes off, and I turned in the ACTs. And I didn't even care enough to take it again. I'm like, whatever. It is what it is. And I didn't even know the time went by. I was out like a light. I was just gone.
Oh my God.
Another time I was, not to tell you all these stories how stupid I am, but it's to make, I'm gonna make a point when I tell you this last thing. But I had a job as a waiter when I was 16, and it was only after this one thing happened that I got fired. But this thing happened over and over and over again. This was just the worst case of it. I went up to a table of 8. I asked for their order, and then I went back to the kitchen, and I didn't remember how I got there. And I was like, okay, I'm in the kitchen. I vaguely remember standing in front of a table with people. I don't know how I got here.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. But the whole time, I swear to you, I was thinking about what I was going to build when I got home.
Oh,
While they were talking to me and giving me their order, all I could think about was what I was going to build when I got home, the project I had in my head. And I thought about that all the way back to the kitchen, and I didn't even remember going to the kitchen because I was so in my head.
Eric.
And then my boss said to me a couple of days later, he's like, Jeff, you're such a nice kid. He's like, can you just quit? Like, cause you suck at this. He says, I don't want to fire you and mess up your resume, whatever. He's like, can you just quit? And I was like, okay, I'll put in my 2 weeks. He said, no, you can go home now. And I've never been good at a job. Never. Because I can't focus unless I'm interested. And so what happened, the point being that I just want to learn certain things. And I can just hyper focus on those things and do really well at those things. But if I'm not interested, forget about it. So for me personally, school sucked. It's like, don't even tell me to sit in a chair and listen to all the nonsense I'm never going to use again. I don't want anything to do with it. Just put me in a place where I can do something that I'm interested in, and I know I'll excel. But that wasn't school. I was not remotely interested in anything at school.
This speaks to a much bigger issue about learning styles and brain wiring. Eric, is this like exactly like?
Oh yeah, that was 1000% my childhood. Like I would never do I didn't even try to do the fucking work because I didn't care. Because I knew like I wasn't going to finish it. I was going to get bored halfway through, or if there was a reading, God forbid they fucking give me a reading assignment that was like 10 or more pages. That's like a night of reading. Like no chance I'm going to get that done.
No,
then you get to
one
college,
page would be a night of reading. I read it 500 times.
And then I get to college and they're like, you're going to have the next 50 pages read so we can discuss Kant in class tomorrow. And I was like, you can go fuck yourself. There's 0% chance that's going to happen. 50 pages of reading? That's 3 months for me, dog. What are we doing?
Okay, but if it was a book on woodworking that taught you something you wanted to know about woodworking, you'd read it. Exactly. Yeah. That's how I was. Yeah. That's how I am.
You two are fucking birds of a feather.
I also know that I'm a physical learner rather than like I can take in information and apply it if I'm interested in it. But if I can physically do the thing, it'll exist in my body in its own awareness for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So
so school sucks for people like us.
Yeah, for sure.
It does.
For sure. So
well, can I just say for a moment, I'm clearly the black sheep here. I love
you're a scientist. I don't know how you pulled it off. Like I don't get brains like yours. Well, I don't get it.
I guess you guys you illustrated that so well. It's like I was sitting in your skin, imagining how you felt. But I don't quite relate to it. Like when I would see something or be reading something, it almost didn't even matter what it was. I found it interesting somehow. It could have been anything.
Oh,
And I was
that's
like,
great.
"Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I wonder why that is."
I wish I had that brain, man.
It almost didn't matter. And like, just as a counterpoint to specialization being sort of a bad thing, for me, specialization is everything in science. We don't need generalists. The low-hanging fruit has been picked. You need really deep, concentrated thought for decades, understanding what's been done before, but going even deeper to find the much higher hanging fruit on the tree of science, like all
And
the low
one
hanging
piece,
stuff.
not even the fruit, but you just want to get the stem, and someone else will get the skin.
Yes,
someone else will get the pulp.
Exactly.
Like,
But
I know,
all
it's crazy.
Jeff, generalists are not getting low hanging fruit in the sciences anymore. It's all been picked. It requires specialization, and specialization is rewarded handsomely. And not only that, but if you can specialize in two different disciplines and combine them, that's even cooler, right? Because there's so few people. It's a little bit of both, right? It's a little bit of Renaissance-y kind of, right? But you have to go deep in both. You can't be general in both. You have to go deep. So my job is like, I have a PhD in biology, but then it was combined with math and computer science to form this new field we call systems biology or quantitative systems pharmacology, QSP. And there was some low hanging fruit there because so few people had the dual skill sets to pick it. But specialization in the sciences is handsomely rewarded and necessary. So it's weird. It's like in some cases being a generalist is the best thing. Think about C-suites, like CEOs and managers at big companies. They have to have some specialization, but they have to be a generalist. They have to understand people. They have to read people and have a social intelligence and know how to motivate and know how to solve problems and think about finance and budgets and marketing and sales and, company outlook and shares and stock market. Like they have to have their fingers in 20 different things, like generalists to perform well, managers and teachers. I think teachers is another example of where generalization is important. Let's say you have to have a core skill as a teacher, but to relate to Eric, maybe you could comment on this. You actually, both of you are teachers. Sorry. Teachers, in some ways, being a generalist is helpful because there's different learning styles. And knowing different topics is important. You can't only be able to teach one topic. Sometimes you have to give an example or an analogy across multiple disciplines. And just having a more general understanding as a teacher is an asset in addition to a core. So I guess I just see it's sort of case dependent on which field you're in. Like certain fields require deep specialization, aeronautical engineering, the sciences and some of the engineering, and some actually like management and corporate really needs some degree of generalization to do well.
Well, Paul, as you were talking about that, I was trying to distinguish what the value of being a specialist in the sciences versus in the arts is. And
that's a great question.
In the sciences, it's generally accepted that there is a singular correct answer. And so when you're trying to find the answer to very complicated questions, you have to be hyper specialized in understanding all of the different criteria that get you to hopefully the right answer. Whereas in the arts, there is no correct answer.
That's a
right?
great,
that is,
that's an interesting point.
What you are doing is creating one possible solution to a dilemma. And the people that you just described in the C-suites, like when you're dealing with people and your job is managing people, there is very rarely one correct answer.
That's a great analogy, Eric.
Sociology is, understanding the psychology of humans. And it's the same in teaching, right? Like, I think to your point, my experience teaching is you do have to have your specialization. You have to know the subject matter inside and out.
Yeah.
Because once you know that and you don't have to think about it, then you can focus on putting yourself in the headspace of the student and where they're at.
All the other things, right?
Yeah, but that requires understanding how humans work. Like good teachers are just naturally gifted at understanding other people.
Have you guys? Oh, sorry, I didn't cut you off.
No, please.
Have you guys heard that theory? It's probably nonsense, but it's interesting nonetheless. Have you heard that theory that the people who built the pyramids might have been living in a time of a high and sophisticated technology And then eventually that technology was lost, and then it had to be reestablished and grow again to where we are today. Have you heard that theory?
I mean, I've heard aliens, but
well, it's an interesting theory nonetheless, because I don't think it's likely to be true, but the reason I mention it is because I believe, and I've also heard it said, that if all of us, if let's say 90% of the population died tomorrow, right? Maybe as a meteor or something, 90% of the population died tomorrow. There is not one person on the planet, one single person on the planet that could build a cell phone or put together a computer or make a chip or even make a capacitor or a resistor or a diode or whatever. Like there's not one person that could do those things. There's one person that could ore the materials in them, and then there's another person that can put them together, another person that, you know what I mean? There's all these different specializations that are required. I mean, I heard it said once that just to build a cell phone, there's like thousands of different specializations to get that thing together.
Yeah, it's like a pharmaceutical drug. To get one drug to market, it's like 5,000 to 10,000 scientists of all different.
That's great. So to your point, it's like it's just been built in the way where the sciences are so complex that it's almost impossible to have one brain capable of doing all of the things. If you could build a cell phone, you would be the most well-rounded person in the world, because there are so many things you have to know to put that thing together from just raw materials.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so obviously in the sciences, it's a whole different thing. Like
it is.
It's far too complex.
It's super interesting, like how the sciences, you can see the need for specialization and why so many specialists in a series, like a series of them is important. But in the arts, Eric, I love what you said. Like there's no right answer here. And honestly,
and it's simpler. In a way, it's harder. But well, no, I wouldn't say it's harder. It's the arts are a one-man pursuit. Let's put it that way. Whereas sciences are a team effort. I just don't. There's like I said,
it's a one-man pursuit or one-woman pursuit. Are they?
Well, they don't have to be. I mean, you could obviously collaborate.
I suppose they typically are.
Yeah, but they can be. I guess I guess what I mean
to
say is they absolutely can be a single individual's pursuit. Whereas the scientists have evolved to a degree that they just can't. They just can't be anymore. So to be a well-rounded artist is a whole different thing than to be a specialist in 15 different things in your field, Paul. What exactly do you do again? I forgot. You're like a chemical engineer?
I do COVID.
No, I do.
That's what I tell people.
Oh my God. We build mathematical models.
Right. I remember
of biological systems to be able to use these mathematical models, like we run them predictively to see what might happen in the real world as like predictive tools. And that requires a lot of different expertise, and no one person knows it all. That's why our company has some biologists, some math people, some computer science people, and we form teams because it takes a lifetime. We don't live long enough to become specialists in all of the things. So it's have to work
too
together.
Complex.
It's too, it takes too long to get a PhD and get enough experience to do the biology well. You're looking at 20 to 30 years post college. We don't live long enough.
That's a different thing. It's almost, this conversation has to be narrowed down to just the arts and crafts. I mean, it's too complex outside of that.
Okay,
but Eric, I got to ask you, did you also zone out for a second when he started describing his job?
Because I zone out half the time he's talking.
No, not because you're not interesting, but because I didn't understand it. No, you were describing it and I don't understand what you're saying. So I just went to I started thinking about kittens shooting bazookas again. I was like, what?
Oh my God, I hate both of you.
You lost me. You're far too smart. And I'm just like,
no, it's not.
I just went into.
It's that you're not interested, Jeff.
No, it is interesting. I genuinely just don't understand it.
Jeff, I have heard him articulate what he does for a living many dozens of times. And when I said that I tell people that he solved COVID, I'm not lying, because I still don't fucking understand what he does.
Anyway, Eric, would you
It's
consider
really cool.
yourself, Eric, do you consider yourself a generalist or a specialist?
I don't know, man. Like, so
Are you a Renaissance person?
I think that's a title that I don't feel confident in giving myself, because I feel like that comes with a certain level of like, I like to smell my own farts. That, I don't think I'm comfortable with.
Let's rephrase it. What is your goal? Would you like to see yourself as no.
Renaissance
person?
What I've been thinking about through this conversation, and I've kind of tried to get at this a couple of times, and I've seen you both balk and push back against me, is it seems that we all have a bias that when we say, and maybe this is a fair bias, that when we talk about Renaissance people, we mean people who are involved in multiple creative disciplines specifically. So if they're doing things that are non-creative and they have high competency levels in other areas, we don't necessarily see them as a Renaissance person.
Give an example.
Well, so I'm thinking about, like, let's say a guy like Paul, not Paul, but a guy like Paul works in the sciences, and he has some woodworking hobbies, but he also likes to fish, and he's a really competent fisherman. And he also is like a great fucking cook. And he also likes to build tree houses for his kids. Like, he has this disparate set of skills. But because he's not painting and sculpting out of clay and doing mosaics, we're not necessarily considering him a Renaissance person.
Oh, because fishing and cooking is not.
Yeah, because those aren't creative outlets. They're not, or they're not
Da Vinci's outlets.
Right.
Da Vinci sort of created the mold.
So if you're not a painter, a sculptor, and a helicopter designer, then then you're not a Renaissance person. Like,
I disagree. Well, no, I think you're right. That's the stereotype. Because I've never heard someone call someone who has had 15 jobs in 15 years doing 15 different things a Renaissance person.
Right, but we even said it, like, Paul said it in the
Yeah.
beginning of the episode. In the cold open, he used the term jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
You don't use that phrase about somebody who dabbles in painting and sculpture, in mosaics and music. You call them a Renaissance man. But the guy who knows how to wire an outlet, plumb a faucet, frame a new wall, put in a new window, you call him a jack of all trades.
Interesting.
So there is a clear bias there.
There's like an elitism to that.
Absolutely there is.
Huh.
Well, not necessarily. It depends on how you think of the Renaissance. Because the Renaissance man, I think, is just it's calling on the history of the Renaissance. That's all. I mean, so if you see the Renaissance as higher than contemporary life, then I suppose it's sort of pretentious. But I don't know. I mean,
I see what you mean, though, Eric. I do.
So this is part of why I'm trying to, like, I hesitate to say I am a Renaissance man. I have disparate interests, and I try to explore all of them. But, like, I guess that's a fair pushback, Jeff, to say.
Has anyone referred to you, Eric, as a Renaissance man?
Besides Paul. Paul has.
I don't know that they have to my face.
Paul told me you were one.
Jeff, have you ever been called that?
Oh, I get it all the time. All the time, but it's because I fit that mold. He's spot on.
Is it because you're a painter primarily, and then you have other creative interests?
You hit it spot on. I get called it probably on a weekly basis from somebody.
Wow.
And it's I'm not saying I agree with it. That is I want to be the person that can build anything.
But not for the label. It's because it's a love of it.
Right. So I'm flattered when people say you are the guy that can build anything. And to me, that's what I hear when they say you're a Renaissance man. I'm like, at least there's one person this month that thinks can build anything. Like, it's a compliment, whether I agree with it or not. I think of it as a compliment. But I would say personally, and I think I've told you this, Paul, I would say you are one. I think if in my personal opinion, this is just my definition. If you were really good at two or three things, or I'd say maybe three things, like God, that to me, that's quite an accomplishment, because it's so rare to be really, really good at several things.
So,
don't you think?
I do. I think that's our modern version of it. And I've been called that. I've been called that quite a few times. And I think it's because like you have the painting reminiscent of the Renaissance. I'm the scientist who likes to do art, right?
Exactly.
And science and art are two of those magic ingredients that we think about with Leonardo da Vinci and that kind of shit. And today, because of economic pressures of making a living and doing one thing just to pay the bills, and we get so tired. And like Jeff, you made a great point about social media being a distraction. It's hard to learn multiple disciplines at a high level. I think everything's working against us in some ways. I mean, the information's there. I know the information's like, there's never been more information than there is now to learn.
No, it's amazing.
But the problem is we have socioeconomic pressures and the algorithms that are designed by scientists to steal our attention. And the news is trying to steal our attention and make us fearful. So we always watch it. Like all these things are pulling at us to take our time away from these other disciplines, learning other disciplines, and at a high level, it takes a long period of time.
Can I ask one more question? So I feel like we've covered being a Renaissance man pretty thoroughly, but we never really came back to, and maybe this is a question we can end on and maybe even dive into in the after show more, but we never came back to the pigeonholing aspect of it.
Oh, that's true.
And I'm very curious about how you feel about that, Jeff, because I'll just say for me, now I made the choice to become a furniture maker because I fell in love with the thing. So we did have two different approaches to that. But even at the times where I get a little tired of it and I want to branch out into sculpture, or I play with clay, or I play with tile or stone, whatever it is, I see furniture and I see content as the specialized vehicle that allows me the free time to have those hobbies, right? Like that's really what they are. And those hobbies all feed back into my practice as a furniture designer and maker. But that is the thing that pays the bills, so that I have both the physical time and the mental space to dabble in those other areas. So I don't feel pigeonholed by it so much as I see it as kind of like the thing that unlocks the door to those other opportunities.
Yeah.
So how do you feel pigeonholed by painting, or do you feel pigeonholed by it? I'm assuming that you do, given that was the question that we entered the show with.
I think he was saying he sees it in other people and doesn't understand why they go for it.
Okay.
Right? Jeff, you clarify.
Yeah, well, and I'll clarify what I said earlier too. When I say don't understand, I literally don't understand. It's not like how could you? It's not a judgment on their character. It's like I don't relate to other cultures. I'm American. If I were to go to India, I wouldn't understand their culture. It's just a different. It's not that mine's better or they're. It's just I don't understand it. It's not what I'm used to. That's what I mean by that. The pigeonhole thing. So, yeah, that's an interesting question. There are days. Let's put it this way. I'm very blessed. Because the way I described myself earlier, being endlessly distracted with all these different things that I want to do, I started that from day one, and I kind of built that lifestyle from day one. And somehow I made a living despite that, which is a huge blessing. So on one hand, I've created a situation for myself that's very much like yours, Eric, where painting does feed the other hobbies. But on the other hand, even painting itself, except for the fact that I'm, quote unquote, known as a painter, even painting itself doesn't trump any of the other things in any way. It's so, I feel like just as much of a maker as I do a painter. So I don't feel pigeonholed in that way. The only time I feel the slightest bit pigeonholed is the day I wake up in the morning and I just know I should be painting because I have a family. And that's the day, not because I don't love painting. I love painting. But that's the day I wake up in the morning and I've got something else eating at my brain going, but today I have this other project I really want to be doing. And that's the only time I feel pigeonholed, when it's like, I don't want to paint today. But as a whole, in general, over my whole life, I'm very happy to be doing everything I'm doing. I love painting. I love, quote, being a painter. But there's always those days. I mean,
I was gonna
there's
say,
always those
like
days.
I feel like that's just life, man. Like
Yeah,
there's
you
some
can't
days
love
you wake up
everything
and
all
you're
the
just
time.
like, you're
Yeah.
like, fuck, man. All I want to do today is like bake some fucking banana bread and just
Yeah.
vibe,
Guys,
But
you-
like I gotta be an adult. Like
You
I got
can't
shit
have
to
steak
do.
every night, right?
Right.
You can't love and my daughter just said to me recently, she's like, do you always love painting, Dad? And I'm like, no, because I'm really not loving it right now. And I'm like,
Yeah, but
it's
I mean,
completely normal.
That's not the
Yeah.
human brain. That's like we call that like hedonic adaptation, where like you think like, oh, when I get this, I'll be happy. And so like someone wins the lottery, and then they find
Yeah.
like a month later they're back to their steady state. We call that hedonic adaptation. It's just how your brain works. That is a human brain chemistry thing. And so
Yeah.
you're not going to be in this blissful, joyful state all the time. Oh my God, unless you're on drugs.
Can't be.
I was
which
gonna say that's why
rewires-
they invented opium, isn't it?
Yeah, which
Yeah.
totally rewires the circuitry. Eric, just for a minute so we can offend all of our listeners, or at least a good portion of them. One of the things about pigeonholing that I've always observed in the woodworking world, and please comment so I'm not the lone asshole here.
Are you going to talk
What the
about river tables?
What the fuck's up with bowl turners? Okay.
I thought you were going to say river tables.
All right, turners, like whoever's a turner out there, look, I love you dearly, and I'm sorry, but it's like it's become such a fucking thing. It's like, oh, I'm a bowl turner, and they turn hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of bowls,
yeah.
and
I
they're
don't
like,
get
yeah,
it.
but you can see there's a 2-degree change on the flange here, and I did the push cut, and you can see
Oh
like,
gosh, I'm
there's
glad
a,
you
Did
said
an
it.
80-20 bevel.
and I'm like, are
I
you
guess.
fucking for real right now? Like, I can't see that. Are you? That's
You
like
should
saying-
have, Logan, you should have
that's like
opened
saying-
with that, Paul.
That's
Yeah,
like saying,
yeah.
You should have opened with that, because that's the point. That's what
the
I'm
cold
talking
open.
about. That's the thing I don't understand. How can you be so obsessed for 30, 40, 50 years with one object?
It's like saying
I don't get it.
You're looking at the moon. Do you see that like little no, I don't see it. What the fuck are you doing? Why don't you go make something else other than a bowl?
But aren't you
I'm
a little bit envious of them, though? That at just the ability
No.
to just find joy in the
I don't know.
simplest thing.
Actually, Jeff, I don't know if it's joy or fear of change.
Well, we're talking about two different people in those
There could be, it could be,
circumstances.
yeah. You could have
Right.
one. You could have one or the other.
You absolutely have the people who just become hyper obsessed with the process and love doing the
That's what
same
it is, yeah.
mechanized thing every day, in and out, and their mind can wander, and that's fine. Like,
creativity doesn't bring them creative
Yeah,
and
yeah,
exploration brings them anxiety. It doesn't bring them any joy.
Yes, not having the answer brings them anxiety. They know how to turn bowls, and they know bowls will sell, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
If you enjoy standing at the lathe, we've talked about this many times, Paul. The scale of the object directly determines the price point, not the quality of the work. People will pay more for larger objects, period. People will pay, Jeff, I assume this is true in paintings. People will pay more
absolutely.
for larger paintings, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to be at a lathe all day and you want to actually make money, you might as well turn bowls, because people are going to pay more for a bowl than they will for a pen. Full stop.
Do people buy wooden bowls? What do you do
All the
with them?
time.
Oh, I
all
do.
the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have bought 5 or 6 bowls. Yeah.
Yep. Salad
Wait a
bowls,
minute, you're
serving
buying from the
bowls.
people that you just badmouthed?
Well, it's not that their product isn't good. It's just I don't know how they sit there
He
and
said
do that.
he
every
negs
day.
them at the craft fair to talk the price down. That's what he does.
He's like, what's with you people making bowls all the time? Just
all right,
give
listen.
that to me. It's worthless. Just give it
For
up.
all the bowl turners out there, I'm so sorry I singled you out. But I don't know how you make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bowls in a row. I'm sorry, but I love you. Dear.
But to your other similar point, I think there are people who refuse to change a thing, and refuse might not be the right word, but who are afraid to change a thing. Yeah, avoid changing things for fear.
Actually,
well, for fear of the market not responding positively.
Well, actually, Eric, I think it's deeper than that. And Jeff, please comment. It's like, why do we avoid trying new things? This is one of my favorite questions. Like, fear of failure? Is it? Is it fear of economic ruin? Is it that it's uncomfortable? I don't know, because I don't know what I'm doing. Like fear of the unknown.
I agree with Eric that you can't generalize. Every person's different. There might be 5 bolt turners that stick with it for 40 years for 5 different reasons. Yeah. But one of the reasons that maybe hasn't been mentioned and may or may not be valid, but I think it is, because I've met people like this and I think it's great. They're not particularly creative people. And then one day they discover they can do a thing. And it gives them so much satisfaction because they've learned to do this thing. And they just develop this pride in this thing. And moving on to something else is not necessary for them because they've discovered the thing that they can do.
And they didn't even know they could. Maybe
they didn't even know they could do it. And they were more of the can't. Maybe they were more innately the can't people. And then one day they discover that they can do something really cool. And so they attach themselves to it. It becomes their identity. I do great bowls.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah. Wow. And so they just don't move on. It's an identity thing, I think, a lot of it.
I had a friend many years ago she was a phenomenal baker, but all she ever made was chocolate chip cookies.
How are you a phenomenal baker when you make one thing?
Well, I mean, she made great fucking cookies, but she would bake these cookies. But so that was my question. I was always very curious. His headphones popped out. Paul, I'll ask you. I was always very curious about whether or not she was going to branch out into other things. And she was always like, well, why would everybody loves my chocolate chip cookies? And she had baked other things that I've tried and she was good. But it's the identity part of it. She became known as the girl who made phenomenal chocolate chip cookies. And so if she took a risk and made macarons and they weren't good,
at her atelier.
Then that identity of being a good baker is challenged. So there is that fear.
That's
fear
a real
of losing thing. Fear of losing your status.
Yeah, your reputation for sure.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
And there's in between too. I would say my wife Victoria, she'll try a new thing, but it needs to percolate for like a year. Like she'll do one new thing a year. And over the 16 years we've been together, she's tried a lot of things. She's done yoga and she became a yoga teacher. She does beekeeping. She has chickens. She does a vegetable garden. She does terrariums.
She is my wife. We're married to the same woman, dude.
She does terrariums. She does running and now weight training. And you say, wow, that's a lot of things. But she can only handle the newness like one thing a year. Otherwise, it gets a little overwhelming. Whereas I'm like, oh my God, give me 10 new things a day. Like I'm voraciously eating up the newness. So I think all of us, and then there's the bolt turners who it's one new thing every 40 years. Sorry, again, bolt turners, I love you. I think we all have our time scale for what we can tolerate, like taking a risk and learning something new and being out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, Jeff, do you know about our dear Lord and Savior, William Teresa Burkle?
I was like, where is this going?
Have I not proselytized the good word
about
WTB
who is that?
woodworking
Who
to
is
you?
That?
Well, William T. Burkle, praise be. He is the proprietor of WTB Woodworking in Hudson Valley, Pennsylvania, where they have all kinds of woodworking supplies, lumber, slab, sheet goods, tools. And just in case you wanted to know, right now they have 50% off all slabs and all boards in store. 50% off all chill epoxy products. Because Jeff, I know you've really had a hankering to make a river table lately.
How did you know? I've been wanting this information.
I saw it in your eyeballs. I saw it in your use of color in that painting behind you, and I was like, this motherfucker, purple sparkles in a slab table all day long. I could just see it in your eyes. Yeah.
I appreciate
and right
it.
now, just in case you were wondering, I don't know when this episode is going to come out. It could be well past this registration point, but from now until December 20th, there is a tool giveaway where he's running a giveaway for a jet lathe. So if you're interested in that, I say you check that out.
You could turn a bowl on it.
Okay,
You could turn
Question, Eric.
a tiny bowl.
Question, Eric. I thought you were talking to me personally all this time.
I mean, I
And
was,
then you
but also
said-
the greater
And then you
audience.
said it may not matter because this episode may come out later, and I realize you're talking to the audience, and I feel a little bit betrayed. I thought this
in
was
this
a personal
case,
thing.
In this case, listen, we can take this off air. Like, if you want, I can introduce you to our Lord and Savior, William Teresa Burkle. He's a good friend of mine.
In nome Patri, Filii, Spiritus Sanctus.
I will say,
Oh,
you know
shoot.
what? I will give a shout out to Bill. I bought a bandsaw off of him, this big old honking 7.5-horse behemoth. I'm very excited to get set up.
Wow.
And
The resawing?
My bandsaw has been like underpowered for the last 8 years. So I just got this new thing. It's a 16-inch resaw capacity, 24-inch throat. It's fucking bonkers.
How big of a
But-
blade will you put on that?
I'll put like a 1-inch resaw. Yeah, I think it can take up to.
I
a
wish
1
I had a
1/4.
bigger shop. Dude,
Oh,
your
my
shop is
God.
gorgeous, by the way. It's huge.
Thank you, brother. It's phenomenal. I got
Oh,
a great
my
setup.
gosh.
Very lucky to have that.
Yeah.
But Bill, buying that off of him, I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna handle the delivery. He was like, I'll just bring it to you, man. Don't worry about it. So he set this up in his trailer, brings it to my shop with 2 of his guys, and the 4 of us get it up into my shop together. And then I was like, well, let me like buy you guys lunch or something. He was like, nah, fuck you, man. I got work to do. So he just like delivered this thing.
How far
out of
to
the,
drive?
Out of the kindness of his heart. It's like 45 minutes, 50 minutes.
Dang.
So
That's a good dude.
if there was ever a reason to support William T. Burkle, it's because he's a good dude, let alone the fact that they have good products at WTB Woodworking. And ad read. There we go. That's how you do it.
Oh, all right.
So it was an ad.
All right.
Oh, man.
Well, we're going to continue this shenanigans with Jeff. Jeff, in the after show, thank you so much for contributing to
Yeah,
this
man.
discussion.
This was a
today.
blast. You guys are fun. It makes me want a second host on my podcast, but I don't think I know anyone that cool. So I guess I'll stick with just me.
Jeff, it felt so natural. It felt so natural talking to you, man. It was
Yeah.
an hour and 45 minutes. I think this might be officially like our longest episode ever.
It's definitely, if not
Really?
the longest.
It
like,
just
it's up
felt
there.
like 5 minutes
Yeah.
with you two.
Yeah.
I don't
That
know
was a
what
blast,
it was.
guys.
You
It was a
guys, it
blast.
was amazing. To the listeners, if you want to help us, which would be amazing, please rate us in like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever you listen on. I've never asked that before, ever. We're in our 48th show, and it never occurred to me to ask for help. I guess we're just like always into the topic. But if you'd like to help us, there's 3 ways. One is just give us a rating and make it honest. If it's a bad rating, then it's bad. We're honest here, and if it's good, then it's great. Good. That's amazing. All right. So that's one way. The second way is support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon, you also get the video feed, which is on YouTube, and the after show. And then if you go to the highest level, we would, take some of your questions in the after show. We'll answer some of your questions, and we'll also give you like some criticism or critique or some ideation on something, a project of yours. That's the second way. And the third way is quite simple. Tell people about us. We don't advertise this show at all. So like if you would just tell a few of your friends that you find this kind of content compelling. It's not just like shop talk. Hey man, how many teeth does your blade have? Oh, I go for the 10 TPI.
That was a very offensive Jason impression.
That is
It's
not
fine.
Jason. Don't do that to
Now
me,
I gotta
Eric.
know who this Jason guy is.
Eric, do not do that to me. Okay. If you enjoy the show, just tell a few people or post a story about it. That would really help us, and we would appreciate it. So
If
with
you
that,
are an hour and 48 minutes into this show, I'm presuming that you enjoy it. So please do tell at least somebody. And before we get out of here, Jeff, can you tell people where they can find you, buddy?
I can be found on Instagram at Jeff Hein Studio, Jeff_Hein_studio. The stuff I make, I'm not great at posting a lot of stuff, but is Jeff. Well, no, I got it backwards. That's the stuff I make. Jeff_Hein_studio. And then my art is Jeff_Hein_art. And then jeffhine.com. And then I have a podcast that is called The Undraped Artist, which is on YouTube and all the other podcast stations. And
what? Just so people know, because they're going to want to go listen to the Paul episode. What was the name of that episode? When was that?
Oh man, you put me on the spot. What was that? When was that?
It was like a month ago.
It was like a
month
month
and a half
ago.
ago.
Yeah. And
I
it
was
has
the
his
first
face on the thumbnail.
non-painter. I was the first non-painter ever. He said.
No, you were the first non-visual artist. We had a photographer.
Okay, non-visual artist, or the first. So we had a hell of a conversation. I recall.
Dude, people loved it. And here's the other thing. I probably should ask you when we're not recording, but I'd love to put this on my podcast. Maybe you get, because I think my audience would love your podcast.
Absolutely. You want it?
Yeah. We got to cross-pollinate, guys.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll give you the audio and video files.
Yeah, let's do it.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
right.
Everybody, go give Jeff a follow. He's a good dude.
Jeff, you're outstanding. You are beyond artistic.
So are you guys, man. I idolize both of you for your skills and you guys are awesome.
Don't do that. That's dangerous.
Lucky to know someone like you, Jeff. Really, really awesome. Thank you.
All right, we can do all the ass kissing in the after show.
All right, let's do it.
All right, see you all later. Bye.